Hey everyone, how are you doing? Imagine a place where 500,000 people came together to celebrate peace and music. A place where the ideals of a generation became a reality, if only for one weekend. A space of freedom where organizational chaos turned into an epic demonstration of solidarity and love. Now think of another Woodstock, one that, instead of peace, brought mud and madness, a festive chaos that became a legend in its own right, where grunge and alternative rock bands marked a new era. And now forget all that. Close your eyes and imagine the antithesis of a festival, an inferno of asphalt, fire and rage, where music, instead of uniting, ignited the fuse of violence and disaster. The story of Woodstock is not just one story. It is the story of three events, three reflections of the same society in different eras. Today, we won't just talk about the myth of Woodstock 1969, nor the muddy rebirth of 1994. We will talk about how a single name became three completely different stories, reflecting the soul of three distinct generations. Stick around until the end, because this is the true story of Woodstock 69, 94, and 99. The year is 1969. The Vietnam War is dividing the United States. The civil rights movement is at its peak, and the hippie counterculture is flourishing with promises of free love and expanded consciousness. It's a time of social turmoil and hope. In this context of social effervescence, four young entrepreneurs decide to organize a three-day music festival on a dairy farm in Bethel, New York. The visionaries behind this idea were Michael Lang, John Roberts, Joel Rosenman, and Artie Kornfeld. The goal was simple: a weekend of peace and music. What they didn't know was that this festival would not only change their lives, but would become the defining event of an era. The organization was a disaster from the start. They expected about 50,000 people, but more than 500,000 showed up, turning the festival into a gigantic human traffic jam. Roads were blocked, food and water were scarce, and sanitary conditions were practically non-existent. Despite everything, what could have turned into a massive riot transformed into an amazing demonstration of human solidarity. People shared their tents, their food, and their stories. The army, instead of intervening with a heavy hand, had to drop supplies from helicopters to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. The rain, which came to turn the place into a quagmire, only fueled the fun, with people dancing and playing in the mud. Despite the euphoria, some attendees, convinced by the conspiracy theories of the time, claimed that the government had seeded the clouds to make it rain and thereby end the concert. But the most important thing about Woodstock 69 was not the logistical chaos, but the atmosphere. There was a palpable sense of unity. Musicians and artists of the caliber of Richie Havens, Joan Baez, Santana, The Who, Janis Joplin, Creedence Clearwater Revival, The Grateful Dead, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and, of course, Jimi Hendrix, took to the stage, creating a soundtrack that defined a generation. Jimi Hendrix's famous rendition of The Star-Spangled Banner became an anti-war anthem. A musical declaration of protest that resonated throughout the world. The festival lineup was a time capsule of psychedelic rock, folk, and blues. Woodstock 69 was an anomaly, the moment a generation showed that a different world was possible, one where love and music could overcome any obstacle. It wasn't just a concert, it was a live manifesto, a testament that the hippie ideals were not just dreams, but a way of life that, for at least 3 days, became a reality. It's why, even today, the name Woodstock evokes a nostalgia for a simpler, more idealistic time. But what happened when they tried to replicate that magic 25 years later? The 90s. Grunge has dethroned hair metal, alternative rock dominates the charts, and Generation X, cynical and disillusioned, looks with skepticism at their parents' hippie legacy. To commemorate the 25th anniversary of the original festival, they decided to organize Woodstock 94, an event that promised to revive the legend. This time, the chosen location was Saugerties, New York. The organizers tried to learn from past mistakes. They built bigger stages, sold tickets, unlike '69, which became a de facto free event, and implemented security measures. But Mother Nature had other plans. Midway through the festival, an epic storm unleashed a torrential downpour that turned the venue into a sea of mud. People who expected a weekend of peace and music found themselves in a giant swamp. And it was at that moment that something unexpected happened. Instead of getting angry, people embraced it. The mud became an integral part of the experience. People slid in it, covered themselves with it, and, in a gesture that evoked the carefree spirit of '69, had the time of their lives. The festival earned the nickname Mudstock because of this muddy chaos. The lineup was a reflection of the era, an eclectic mix of '69 legends like Santana and Joe Cocker, along with the new kings of rock like Green Day, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and 9 Inch Nails. Green Day's performance with a massive mud battle and 9 Inch Nails show in the mud became iconic moments. However, not all the big names of the era were present. Bands like Guns N' Roses did not participate due to internal issues. Johnny Cash declined his invitation after learning he would not be performing on the main stage. Meanwhile, Alice in Chains withdrew from the festival due to their vocalist Lane Staley's addiction problems. Nirvana's absence was due to Kurt Cobain's tragic death, which occurred a few months before the festival, leading the remaining band members to decline any offers. Despite the fun, the festival was not without problems. Fences fell, tickets were mass forged, and an estimated 500,000 people got in for free. It was chaos, yes, but a festive chaos. It was the Woodstock of a generation that didn't believe in utopias, but did believe in having a good time. They weren't looking to change the world. They just wanted a good weekend of music, and if mud came with it, all the better. Woodstock '94 showed that, even though the idealism of '69 had disappeared, music's ability to unite people, even in adverse conditions, remained intact. It was the festival that taught us that peace and love can be replaced by mud and madness and still be a memorable experience. But what happens when music and greed come together in the worst-case scenario? Get ready for a very different story, because what came 5 years later wasn't mud, it was hell. And now we come to the end of the journey, to the antithesis of the utopia, to the nightmare that was Woodstock '99. It's been 30 years since the original festival. The internet is taking off, mass culture has replaced idealism, and music, especially nu metal, channels the rage and frustration of a disillusioned youth. For this anniversary edition, the organizers made a crucial mistake. They chose the wrong location. Instead of a farm, the festival was held at Griffiths Air Force Base in New York State, a sea of asphalt and concrete. And the mistake didn't stop there. The heat was suffocating. Water, which had been given away for free in '69, was sold at exorbitant prices. Lines for the bathrooms were endless, and filth accumulated everywhere. It was a festival designed for profit, and people felt it. The anger grew as people felt ripped off and mistreated. The lineup, with bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit, and Kid Rock, only served to fan the flames of rage. The song "Break Stuff" by Limp Bizkit wasn't just a song, it was a command, and people followed it. At nightfall, the rage overflowed. Riots broke out. Food stands were burned, trucks were stolen, and fires were set. Violence and vandalism replaced peace. In addition, reports of sexual assault surfaced, turning the festival into a symbol of toxicity and chaos. Despite the destruction, the festival was a financial success for the organizers. Ticket sales, which cost around $150, merchandise sales, and broadcasting rights generated millions of dollars in profit. However, the human and legal cost was enormous. Lawsuits were filed against the organizers, who were accused of negligence for failing to ensure a safe environment, especially in the face of sexual assaults. Although some out-of-court settlements were reached, the organizers refused to accept full responsibility, blaming the artists and the irresponsible generation that attended. This moral and logistical failure became the festival's most lasting legacy, forever staining the Woodstock brand. As you can see, the story of Woodstock is not the story of a single festival, but of 3 different worlds, separated by time, but united by the same name. From the idealistic peace of '69 through the chaotic mud of '94, the asphalt and rage inferno of '99, Each Woodstock, in its own chaos, tells us a different story about the spirit of its time. But now I have a question for you. After learning the complete story, which of these Woodstocks do you find most fascinating? The festival of utopia, the party, the nightmare, or the one that never came to be? Leave your answer in the comments. I'd love to read your opinions. And if you like this type of content, if you're as passionate about music history as I am, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to not miss any of my upcoming videos. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I'll see you in the next one.